Well, Merry Christmas. What's up, everybody? CP and SJ with you here for another week of picks on every day we're covering. We're going to get you hopefully some juicy picks here for this holiday weekend as we move into next week, pushing towards the new year. Of course, we'll have the regular podcast as well here this weekend, but we're going to get into some picks here for you for some other bowl games outside of that college football playoff. SJ, I hope everybody was satisfied with what Santa Claus showed up with, and maybe we'll put some more stuff in the bag now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's that might be kind of like an impossible task or a fool's errand, if you will, because it's. I mean, probably always happy, but it could always be more, right? Even
Yep.
as we get older. So, but we'll try to make it a little bit merrier Christmas and get you some of that money you spent. Maybe get at least maybe match it, if not double that, and get some money back in your pocket because. Uncle Sam with a lot of these taxes, he's wanting his too here pretty soon here at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's a rough time of year on that front for sure. you're pushing it out the door, and then yeah, right around the corner, you got to turn around and pay the man. So we'll see how that all shakes out, but we'll do our best to make it a little bit more palatable here for you. So we're gonna hit some other bowl games here. Obviously, we've been kind of focused on the playoff and some of those big games and stuff, but we've got a big weekend here coming up. This is when the bowl season really gets underway, hot and heavy, with lots of games going on, especially over this upcoming weekend. So we'll have plenty to chat about. I'm going to kick it off here with one that is right away here, as folks are probably picking this up. So Thursday, there is a contest in the evening that I took a look at and thought, I like this one a little bit. It's a 4:30 kickoff with the Rate Bowl. I'm assuming that's you formerly the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I don't know what the hell's going
I
on,
think
but
you're correct on that one, even before something else. That's one tricky thing. We like the Bulls, but it's hard to keep track what, where, and who based on the name anymore these days.
yeah, no kidding. But anyways, looking at the teams in the game, K State laying 6.5 against Rutgers. Not that I don't think that Rutgers is, a kind of a sneaky, formidable opponent here. They can play well at times. They can run the ball really well. But I think this is a game that matches up really well here for K State. K State, the one thing they have struggled to do is run a little bit more efficiently down to down. And that's the thing that Rutgers kind of struggles on the offensive side or on the defensive side. So I think the K State will be able to get a little bit more of that ground game going, and that's going to help Johnson get the pass game kind of opened up a little bit here for him. So only laying less than a touchdown. I like K State here. I think they're just the overall better team in this game. I don't think they're going to cover it by a whole heck of a lot, but I think they're going to get there. So I'm going to go K State in that one.
Seems to be then they got maybe a little bit of an ending, a better ending to their season as well. A lot of these games, especially with the lower tier bowl games, whatever you want to call them, it's kind of about who wants to be there always and who's going to come to play. And I think Kansas State probably has a little bit more momentum coming in. Rutgers didn't have a bad season. 7 wins is decent, I guess, especially for a school like that. But
Mm-hmm.
they did have some pretty high expectations. They kind of were, a little bit of a dark horse for a lot of people, maybe making a run there. 8 or 9, even a 10-win team. So I'm sure they're a little bit salty here at the end of the year. So that could factor in as well. I actually held off until Friday morning. Didn't feel too confident on those Thursday games, but this one I'm going to look at a total here, and it's one of the first game. Well, actually, the first game of the day looks like Oklahoma and Navy. I don't think this is a bowl matchup you get very often. I don't recall these teams playing far too often. Maybe in the Grapes of Wrath they met, something like that. But I don't, I don't know. I don't remember an Oklahoma Navy matchup too often. But I don't. Oklahoma's the favorite, at least the way I'm looking at it, a 3-point favorite, a close one for sure. But I don't necessarily like that one way or the other. I do going to take a look at that total. 43 and a half is what I was able to play. Seems fairly low, especially for teams that at times have been able to, put up a decent amount of points. And you're not asking for a lot of, one team can put up 28. You feel like you're pretty good with the other team getting close to 20 on their end, keeping it closer, even if it's a blowout. One team gets rolling, a 30 spot. We only need 10 or so from the other to cover that number. So we'll go ahead and take the overs on that total 43 and a half. And I think that may be a third quarter type of play where we're looking pretty good enough to worry about that one.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, especially you get a armed forces team in the armed forces bowl, they're going to be extra motivated, right? I mean, Navy's got to, and they're looking to kind of build off of that nice win there that they had at the end of the season too. They got a little confidence right now, so I like that too, being able to put a little bit of points there and make that one a little bit more interesting than what the prognosticators are saying. So yeah, that one gets the day started there on Friday at 11 o'clock. I'm going to move to a game that's a little bit later in the day at 2:30. This is the Birmingham Bowl, so it'll be the next game on the slate there on Friday. Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech are duking it out there in that one. Obviously, I think this is one of those games like you talked about where you look at sometimes at the motivation factor, and Vanderbilt, I'm sure, is excited to be, always excited to be in a bowl game. They historically have a tough time doing that, obviously playing a very difficult league, but had a good year this year, played some really good teams really well. Obviously pulled off some huge upsets this season too. Diego Pavia, their quarterback, was a little bit banged up towards the end of the season, so I think that kind of hurt them down the stretch. He's had some time to rest. They're going to be ready to go. I think this Georgia Tech team obviously is not near as good as we thought they might have been at the beginning of the season. They still play tough ball, but Vandy's going to be ready to go. So Vandy's actually the underdog here, but I'm seeing it by 2.5 on the line for some reason. But I'm just going to go straight money line. I think Vandy wins this game, get you maybe a little bit extra plus on that, and get you a little coin on the Commodores pulling it off.
When you add on top of that, the ruling that the NCAA made, where it sounds like Diego's going to get a little bit more time there in college, which we all probably could have used at the time, but some people got to get jobs and start paying bills. But hey, if you're able to get away with it,
Yep.
go for it, buddy. Keep on rolling there with that free education. So go on ahead, but that has to be probably a little bit of at least like a or just a morale boost, kind of saying this isn't it, and we got a little bit more damage that can be done. But I do think, like you, they probably are the better team. I'm going to switch over to the night games there on on Friday still. Syracuse, Washington State. Looking on paper, you'd think it's a fairly even matchup. I know Syracuse maybe had like the more signature wins, a 9-win team versus 8-win team, so there's not a lot of margin of error difference there. But Washington State did have a little bit of a struggle down the stretch. I believe that's why we're looking at a 17-point spread here. As well, I'm pulling it up now. It seems a little bit high for teams that, to me, and then maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but on paper it seems like they'd be fairly even. But I know, like, losing just those last couple 3 games there down the stretch to unranked teams. Would they lose to New Mexico and Oregon State lost? Which, I mean, that's the the Pac-2 rivalry right there. You can't really hold much weight on that one. And then fall into Wyoming too. But I mean, even those games, of course, like it's not probably seen as like a great opponent, but they lost by like 1, 2, or 3 points. So I mean, one play here or there, they're back, they get a win, and maybe they're in a. Well, I guess maybe they wouldn't be in a better bowl just because they don't exactly have the tie-ins and the contract. But nevertheless, they could be a 10-win team very easily, even 11-win team if you get a bounce here or there. So I just think that number is a little too high. So I'll take them to cover that. Not necessarily expecting a win or anything of that nature. Not ruling it out. I don't think that's impossible, but I'll stay a little bit safer and take them to cover that 17 because that's a pretty healthy number, even in some of these bowl games where we do see blowouts with teams that are a little bit more reliable. I think that's high. So we'll go ahead and take our chances with that.
Yeah, I like that, playing the odds a little bit on that one. That seems like a good way to go with it. Like you said, on paper, yeah, probably way closer than you'd think there. And maybe people get a little bit too much, credit to the end of the season there for Syracuse too. I mean, yeah, they pulled off a big win at the end, but was that as impressive as we think?
Yeah, it was a little fluky in my mind, and not to discredit them because they still earned the victory, but to me, that especially that Miami game is like they more of kind of they got the win, they earned it, but this is more of what Miami like didn't do than what Syracuse did, to me at least.
I'm going to move to the late game, and I think we're going to have some differing opinions here on this one, and that's fine. We need to shake things up here once in a while on this bad boy. Las Vegas Bowl, obviously a place where you can have a good time, regardless of whatever the football game outcome is for folks that are traveling to see this one. 9:30 late game there on Friday night, so this will be your after dark, I guess, Pac-12 after dark, so to speak. Even though neither of these
lives on, it will never die.
A&M laying 3.5 as I'm seeing it against USC. I'm going to go Aggies here, even though they've let me down a few times this season. I just feel like there's motivation, and again, is going to be an issue here. A&M's going to be anxious, I think, to maybe try to prove something at the end of the year. Elko certainly seems like a coach that's not going to let his team just walk through a game. He loves the pep talk type stuff and trying to get his team motivated. So I think that won't be an issue for them. And USC's, they're going to be down a few different spots here. Obviously Miller Moss didn't work out. He's already gone to go to Louisville. The backup, hasn't played as good as they kind of wanted him to, stepping into that role there the last few games for the Trojans. And their top star receivers already said he's leaving too. So it's kind of a weird time for USC. Usually don't see players leaving a program like that. So that just kind of gives them some doubt into motivation in my mind for a team like that. So I'm going to go A&M laying 3.5. Don't think it'll be a blowout by any means, but I think they cover that way.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything of what you said. Just kind of looking to maybe, you know, pin one of those games where it is like the unexpected type of game, and I think this could be it. And one of the reasons is just being it's fairly close to. Then it's not a travel deal. Like I mean, you literally could. I mean, they're not going to, but you could bus there and be there in a
Right.
couple hours. So that I think that's a little bit of a benefit. And also when you speak about my Maeva, the quarterback for USC. He played for UNLV for what 2 years at least. So he'll be back there, kind of in the friendly confines there, at least in the same city, right? So um, that might be a little familiarity, but that will be the trick is the players gone or missed. So for me, taking the other side of it, trying to get a bit of an underdog pick here, and I'm only going to take them to cover that 3.5. I'm not going to go so far as to think that they could win it outright. But there'll be young players that'll need to step up, and my thing will be like, well, a lot of times you kind of add by subtracting, so that would be the hope if you're someone on the USC side of things. But to me, this is honestly a coin flip, and sometimes you got to take chance and maybe see a value there. It's not a I wouldn't say it's a super long shot, but it's definitely something you want to just kind of tread lightly there and maybe not too heavily on the confidence side, but make a play here and see if you can get a little value on it when there's somewhat of a reasonable shot, I would say, of them covering that number.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there too. So I'm with you. I think that both of us, this is in a game where we're, head over heels, like, oh, lock on this one type of deal. It's just interesting, intriguing matchup, and I can see both sides of it. Yeah, USC probably has the guys that can just step in and say, oh, my time to shine now, and go do it in a game like that. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a fun game, I think, to pay attention to. I'm going to move. Do you have anything else on Friday there?
No, I think we're both on to Saturday now. It looks like yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to Saturday. I'll let you start here with your first one on Saturday.
All right. Well, this game, I think you may be watching this game, the old Pop Tarts Bowl, and every year we have to bring this up. And it feels like we're not the only ones thinking that. But how the hell are they playing this game in the middle of the afternoon? When you're thinking of Pop Tarts, it's got to be, I'm not saying 11's fine. It doesn't have to be no 8 a.m. game or 9 a.m. But you could right away or late at night makes more sense to me. But as far as the game goes, I think it's of course with these type of offenses, Iowa State and Miami, I think it's going to be a back and forth thing. And okay, I know I thought that on the Big 12, and I was wrong there, but I don't think Miami has near of the defensive kind of intensity, or they're not playing like Arizona State was heading into that Big 12 matchup. So that's where I'm a little bit more willing to take the total, and it's 55.5 is where I saw it. Seems a little high, but these teams, that the points can come quickly and they can come often. So I'm actually fairly confident in this one. I might not go all in, but pretty close to that to that point of being. I think this will be a pretty easy cover in that game, and I think it should be a good game. Maybe one of the better games here before we get back into the playoff.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, just as a fan, we both try to usually stay away from our team's games a little bit, and that's why I looked at that one. I thought the same exact thing when I looked at it. I was like, oh, total, yeah, that probably makes sense to me. I do think this will be a fun game, and I think it's cool too for both teams that all the guys are playing. There really isn't anybody that's stepping out of this game. Everybody's going for it, even the ones that obviously have some pro prospects in the back of their mind, and on top of that, obviously one of the best marketed bowl games out there now
Oh
with
yeah.
we're going to toast the mascot. We got the toaster in the trophy now. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time. It should. And like you said, hopefully it should be a good game.
I mean, we talk about it often, not to get too deep into it, but with the players playing, I mean, I know there's a lot of money to be made and all that out there with as far as moving on to the next level and that. But I mean, what would be more fun, playing in a game, a competitive atmosphere, or going and practicing your 40-yard dash? Like there's time to do that. Like it's good to see, when the players do decide that, when it's between moving on and or if their eligibility is gone. And transferring, I get it. That's a whole different situation because it would be kind of hard to to go to, get in one of these intense type of situations with somebody that you might feel like kind of turn their back on you. So that's totally different. But as far as to the next level, man, play the game. And I mean, that's going to be one of the last kind of playing for fun times that you may have in your life.
Yeah, yeah, and an opportunity to showcase yourself again. Really, I mean, yeah, there's always that risk of injury, but I mean, to me, that part of the argument's always been weird because you could do that at the gym,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever, like any type of life, you can get injured one way or another. So I think go out and do what you do and have
yeah.
fun with it.
I know we're not in the same kind of shape as these guys, but tying your shoe sometimes can get a little hectic there. So it can happen in the best of us at any time. So
No kidding. I'm gonna go to one that's a little bit earlier than that on Saturday for my first one that day. The old Boston friendly confines there, Fenway, the Fenway Bowl. It's an early 10 a.m. kickoff. North Carolina and UConn, not the juiciest matchup of the bowl season for sure. But UNC only laying 2.5. Now I know there's probably going to be some player issues with them here in this game, but I've watched a little bit of UConn earlier this year, and I full strength. I still don't think that they're that great of a football team. So I think North Carolina's got the players, no matter who's in and out here, to get this done. Obviously, there's a little bit of renewed excitement around what's going on there as well with Belichick and waiting there to be the head coach. So I think they're ready to go and play hard and show out. So I'm going to go Carolina to cover that 2.5. Not a thing that I'm going to obviously put a whole lot of coin on just because it's not that exciting of a matchup, but I still think that UNC gets that done fairly handily.
do one more here for Saturday, and then we got. I guess it wasn't intentional, but I guess I'm off to the. I'm have my attention square on the armed services because I was looking at the Independence Bowl here with Army and Louisiana Tech. I what wasn't a. And what I guess it would have been a different matchup here, right? In this situation, we had Louisiana Tech kind of had to get called in from the bullpen, so that was an
Mm-hmm.
interesting storyline to add to it. Again, I'm looking at the total. A lot of these just they look pretty ripe to me, especially with the matchups and who was in it. And 44.5 for college is fairly low, at least in my mind, with an
Mm-hmm.
Army team that's put up almost that by themselves several times this year. So that being that it was a kind of a switcheroo here at the end, it may not be all that competitive, but I think getting a 45 a total there between the two teams, I think is pretty likely. And the Army could maybe be in a bit of a blowout here, but I think that total is going to be a pretty easy cover again, just kind of like that Oklahoma Navy matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I agree with that too. I think Army, and especially for them, it's like kind of again, let's bounce back and prove ourselves. They've done that a couple times now here late in the season. They've had to, so we'll see if they do that. But I do think that that number is not too hard to get to in that type of game. I'm going to go one on a number that's a little bit higher than that. But again, I think these two teams, this is going to be similar, I think, to that Iowa State Miami game. The Alamo Bowl, 6:30 on Saturday night, BYU Colorado. Obviously, the stars that are involved on both sides here, two teams that had pretty good seasons, tied at the top of the Big 12 conference, didn't play in the championship, but they were right there as far as records concerned. And they both have put up big numbers in a lot of different games this season. It's most of the games they've been involved with have been high scoring affairs. So I think this is going to be no different. Over 54.5 is what I'm seeing. So it is a little bit up there more than some others, but still, I don't think there's going to be a problem here. I see this one kind of who has the ball last type of deal with this type of game, just because the way that we've seen some other games, similar opponents for them be that way, I wouldn't expect any different here with everybody playing.
Yeah, I don't know this will affect the total too much, but interesting like development, I guess you'd call it. And I'm not even into like the celebrity gossip type thing or people's personal lives or whatever, but Travis Hunter's had a week. I will say leave it at that. Sounds like there may be some things going on, and that could definitely affect like you on the field. You would think. I mean,
Yeah.
just I think at one point I don't. on that app, but I guess he might have deactivated his Instagram at one point. Was the what report and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, there's still plenty of weapons from the squad. I don't think this will affect your total, but that will be like interesting to watch because maybe like first type of I don't know, like off the field adversity that we know of. So we'll see how he reacts to that. So that's maybe something to watch. But I do think that will be an easy over. I know you had a bonus pick, and I'll just throw one in there too, just because keep things fun. That this one could be ugly. So I'm definitely gonna stay away from the total on this one. But anytime that Iowa's involved in a game, offense is probably like can be not exactly part of the recipe a lot of times. So and it's only a 3-point spread here with them in Missouri. I think Missouri is a little bit obviously more capable offensively and has shown more over the long period. I know there's a couple guys that are probably opted or moved on to the next level and opted out, but I still think they have enough to cover that 3 points. So I'll take them to win the Music City Bowl there by 4 points or more. I think that's a pretty. It doesn't seem too wild out there for a bonus pick.
Yeah, that's going to be that will be a little bit interesting to watch because, like you said, there are a couple of receivers that are stepping out for Mizzou, but Cook is playing and back and healthy. Sullivan does come back for Iowa, but again, he's been out for a long time too, and they've lost their best player on offense in Johnson.
Yeah, I meant to mention that. Just when I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, they're freaking. They're pretty much Iowa. What 90% of their offense is gone.
Yeah, exactly. Their dude on the year is gone. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting battle. My bonus pick was coming up on Tuesday in the Citrus Bowl, 2:00 kickoff. South Carolina laying 9.5 against Illinois. I just think this is two different teams going two different directions. Illinois kind of, tanked at the end of the season. South Carolina, obviously, I think a lot of people's minds, probably the most deserving team outside of the ones that didn't get into the college football playoff the way that they played at the end of the season. So they've been in big games. They've played tough teams to the brink. And I think Sellers is going to go off in this one to prove a point and get them jump started for the next season. So even though it's a big number at 9.5, that's my bonus. I'm going Gamecocks to cover that and win that one in the Citrus Bowl.
And even just looking at the list here, you got a couple interesting, at least name games or helmet games, whatever you want to call them. You got an Alabama-Michigan matchup, which a couple years ago that was a playoff game, or it would have been in that situation. And even like a Louisville-Washington, those teams have been in the mix, and Baylor-LSU. Those teams have been kind of with at least top 20 type teams. So there's some decent games there leading into that first playoff game on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, gonna be some juicy stuff. We of course will keep our eye on all of it, and if you have anything that you would like to let us know about, please feel free to do so. You see the handles there. Hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you're thinking about picks here this upcoming weekend as you're enjoying the games. And then, of course, we would love it if you would like, subscribe, and get the notifications here on this YouTube channel for the picks each week. And then also like and share the podcast, available on all the major platforms, including our host at Spotify. We'll have those for you as well. Another one coming up here this weekend at the end of the weekend games. And then we'll get you juiced up and ready to go with our picks for the college football playoff that day as well. So be on the lookout for that, as that'll get ramped up at the middle of next week. So all right. That's what we got here for you this time around. Again, we hope everybody's had a very Merry Christmas and a good holiday season so far. And we'll hope you have a great weekend and get a chance to enjoy some of this fun bowl season here. We said always the most wonderful time of the year to us, for sure.
Yeah, make sure you grab some eggnog and enjoy the games.
Yeah, exactly. With that moose mug in. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.